Hey, and welcome to the Stories Unveiled podcast, where we talk about the purpose in every story and how to live in freedom from your past. I'm your host, Ashley Sears, and each episode you're invited into a conversation about real life between me and a friend. I believe if an issue is addressed in the Bible, then it's important to create a safe and supportive space to discuss it. While some of these conversations are not easy, I do believe they are worth it. If you like what you hear, please visit our ministry at storiesunveiledconference.com. Thank you for joining today. You're listening to episode 11 of the Stories Unveiled podcast. Today's conversation is with my friend Nataliya Barbin. We had a conversation about defining your passion through loss, helping others in God-sized ways, and finding balance daily. Nataliya is a boy mom and small business owner who moved from Ukraine to the United States as a kid. She is passionate about helping people and seeing the beauty in them simply because God created them. Nataliya's story is a beautiful example of what can happen if you trust God, even in really hard circumstances. I hope you enjoy our conversation. Thank you so much for being here, Nataliya.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. I'm going to start by just telling a short little story about how you and I met. It was, 2020. I think it was 3 years ago now. It started with me and my husband being on the cover of Christian Living magazine. Mm-hmm. Our story was featured. And so that was one of the first magazines I had ever picked up and started reading and whatnot. And so I like to check out all of the issues. And I want to say it was just a couple months or a couple issues after ours that I saw your issue. And the picture on the front was, first of all, beautiful. It captivated me. So I grabbed the magazine and I read your story. And your story was so incredible that I literally said to my husband, I want to meet this girl. I want to meet her in person. Clearly she's local, so I want to meet her. And so I believe I just reached out on Instagram because your handles and all of your contact info was there for me to be able to do that. And so I reached out on Instagram and we, made a plan to have coffee at a coffee shop, and we met. And well, you were just as incredible in person. And ever since then, we have had such a great both personal relationship, but also working relationship and partnership, which we'll kind of get to in a little bit. But I am so thankful for that day and for being able to come across your story and just know who you are and know just kind of what you're all about. I'm just really thankful for that day. So with that, I wanted to ask you to talk a little bit about that magazine article and about the story that you talked about.
Yeah, of course. I would love to share with anybody who's listening. And I just want to say that I loved meeting you. I felt like it was going to be a friendship from the beginning.
Yeah.
I just felt like we connected on so many different levels. And I'm thankful to God that I know you.
Yeah, thank you.
So, of course, talking about my story hasn't always been easy, but having it printed in the magazine, I think it gave me courage to be able to talk about it without completely breaking down. Because until that point, anytime somebody would ask me, oh, why do you do what you do? Or, what's your story? I just say, just promoting inner beauty or this or that, because I couldn't talk about my story. I couldn't talk about the why. It was too raw. And so somehow having it be printed gave me the courage to do that. So I would love to share about it. So the article was a tribute to my brother, who we lost in a terrible motorcycle accident 5 years ago. And I was able to talk about who he was and the impact that he had in the world. He was 21 years old when he died, and he was full of life, as any 21-year-old. But he had this contagious laugh and contagious smile, and he just carried compassion with him everywhere he went. And he used to say, "Hello, beautiful," to me. And my mom and my sister-in-laws, and
it was how he treated the women in his life.
Yeah, it was just we didn't know what it meant until he was gone. You know, those words. I remember, it's kind of selfish, but I remember even when hearing that he passed away, wanting to find those words somewhere, you know, whether it was in a voice message or a text message or anything, just to hear them one more time. You know, of course I didn't find them, but we had a candlelight ceremony for him at the place that he was last alive, and we did not expect how many people showed up. Really? It was people we did not know, and we thought, you know, it'd be a few friends, close friends or family that would come, but it was 75%, I would say, were people we had no idea who they were.
Oh my gosh.
Just people that he touched with his life. And as they started sharing, you know, we'd ask him, like, who are you? How do you know him? And, you know, oh, I'm a barista at Dutch Bros, or I work at a paint shop, or he helped me fix my car, or this or that. And so
just random people from
the community, from his life. And all I kept hearing was, hello, beautiful. Because that is exactly how he greeted the ladies when he would pull up to Dutch Bros to order his cup of coffee. Is he would greet them and say, hello, beautiful, how are you?
And it was an endearing term, something that he really wanted to communicate.
Yeah, it was just his way to brightening up somebody's day. It was his way to share the light, you know, with others. And it became even more special, you know. So as the months went on, and I started to realize that the words that I was missing, the hello beautiful from him, they weren't really about me. It was about who he was and who was in him, you know, Christ-like beauty. And he chose to share that with the world. And I wanted to make that go on. I wanted to tell people about it. I wanted somehow to continue it, you know, with him being gone. And so I decided I'm going to design a shirt and I'm going to tell all the people of the world that it matters when we smile at a stranger. It matters when we say hello, that, you know, sometimes if somebody's being rude to you, we don't necessarily know why. So give them that, you know, benefit of the doubt. So I decided to name my company Hello Beautiful. Yes. Because it's the inner beauty.
Being full of beauty.
Yeah. And so I designed one shirt, and that was my goal. It's just
one shirt
to talk about it and to put it out there. And my business name was going to be Hello Beautiful and Company, because, you know, I had no idea where it was going to go. And I started promoting that, and that's really the beginning.
Yeah. That's amazing. So out of such a tragic accident, because he died so young and so unexpectedly, such a beautiful thing was born. No pun intended, obviously. But talk to me a little bit about the progression of Hello Beautiful and Company. Kind of what was your initial vision, and where is it at now?
Yeah, I mean, my initial goal was just to spread the positivity, you know, spread the light. And no, I didn't really talk about my brother so much, but I just talked about, you know.
You talked about the message, but not really what was behind
because
it.
I wasn't ready to talk about him. But I promoted just the one T-shirt, like I said, for probably a good 6 months. And my goal was just, that was it. And I blogged a little bit, you know. And then I was faced with a question, like, what's next? Like, what design are you doing next? Is this all we can buy? Is just this one shirt? And so I really had to sit back and pray about it and really give it some thought. And it was a lot of pressure to even design another product, because you have one T-shirt design that means so much. Right. How do you follow up with something else?
Everything seems to pale in comparison.
And it can't just be an empty design. So that's, I think, where my business became purpose driven, is that I understood that each design that I do put out there has to have a purpose and a meaning. And so the second one I did, it was simple. It just said anchored. And I was able to continue talking about being anchored in love and what does that mean. And then, of course, being from Idaho, local,
Yeah.
customers started asking for an Idaho t-shirt because, we all wear Idaho t-shirts here. And I'm like, I can't do Idaho because I don't want to just print an Idaho shirt.
Right.
And so
There's
I really had
many
to,
companies that do Idaho shirts.
Yeah, I really had to be like, how can I put my message on an Idaho outline, a state outline? And so I ended up doing a design that said, be kind, be love, be beautiful. And I felt like that explained exactly what my brand was. And then I did hearts on the inside and they flowed out of Idaho to the outside. And so that was about 4 years ago, and it's my number one selling Idaho t-shirt.
That's incredible.
Which is amazing.
Yeah.
But, and that's kind of what the business became. It started as a passion project, but I feel like to this day, it still is. It's whatever's inside, it comes out onto my designs.
Yeah. So everything you do, and you can correct me, but everything you do is hand designed. All of your shirts are hand designed. They are also incredible quality. I have several, so I can say that firsthand. They are.
Well, and that's the thing. I didn't want to just print any shirt. You know? I wanted it to be something that you would be drawn to wear, not just because of the message, but because it was so comfortable.
Yeah.
And that it'd be your favorite shirt and you'd want to wear it all the time.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And there is a purpose and a message behind all of them, even the ones that maybe just have, like you said, an Idaho on them. But the purpose and the point of everything that you have and everything that you do is to promote this beauty that comes from within that God has put in all of us and to kind of share that light. You've had the opportunity, I think, to be able to use your business, this passion project, to be able to share the gospel even in simple ways with people that are not believers. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. The thing is, I didn't want to say I'm a Christian t-shirt company.
Right. And overtly have, and some of your things do have scripture and some of your things definitely do have,
for sure.
are very overtly Christian, but you wanted to reach everyone.
Everyone, correct. Yeah. And it's amazing. The people that I've met through the business so far, it's been a blessing to my life.
Yeah.
It really has.
That's amazing. Well, so you started with t-shirts. Tell me a little bit about kind of like where you're at now. I know you do new launches all the time. You have some jewelry and all of that. So two things. One, tell us where people can find your shop, your business, and then just tell us a little bit about what you have.
Yeah, so I have an online store that it's hellobeautifulco.com. So yeah, the spelling's a little bit different.
Yeah, it's the word beauty and the word full, F-U-L-L. And just as a side note, any of the links or websites or anything that we talk about here will be in the podcast notes on this episode. So anybody listening will be able to go click the link directly and just find it there. So you could just scroll to the bottom and find it that way. So yeah, but go on.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm like, I always have to say that because people don't realize it. They're like, you say beautiful funny. I'm like, because I'm saying beautiful.
That's correct.
I'm saying a little bit differently. So, I have a ton of faith-based designs, inspirational designs, things. Every season has a purpose, or be the light with an Idaho, or there's just some scriptures that are really dear to my heart. We've also added a jewelry line, just dainty necklaces with a message on the back that says, "You're beautiful on the inside and out." What I found with COVID and all of that, where I didn't know where my business could go,
right,
is it was a moment of panic, how can I sell shirts when there's COVID happening, or when all the uncertainty was going on a few years back. And people... I ran a promotion, and I asked people to gift my shirts to somebody to bring them hope.
Yeah. And
I discounted them really heavily, and people ended up buying them and writing these notes. And what I didn't realize is I needed those. I needed to hear that my t-shirt is not just a t-shirt.
Yeah.
It's going to help somebody. And so I ended up adding the jewelry line after that because I just knew that it would be the perfect addition to the gifting process,
Yeah.
with people who are gifting items and things like that. So it's been really fun.
That's great. I'm just going to rabbit trail for just a second, but you said that and it reminded me, you also, like, your shirts do good. So you and I have partnered for Stories Unveiled. You have designed the last 2 or 3, I can't remember.
2.
You've designed the last 2 shirts for the Stories Unveiled conference, and they are just phenomenal. I just love partnering with you. But you also partner with other organizations. You have, your shirts are in local places, at least all over the Boise area, the Boise, Idaho area. Like wholesale wise, so people can actually shop in person as well. But you also help. And so in November, this wasn't necessarily anything you were expecting, but I would love for you to talk just for a second about what you do in November about giving back.
Yeah. So shortly in the first year of my business, I knew that I wanted to give back. And I think as believers, we all give back in so many different ways. But I just had this desire to do something, one, bring awareness to an organization that maybe somebody doesn't know about, and 2, bring us together in the process of giving back and unite us. Because I feel like when we're together, united, I mean, we can do so much more than me by myself. And so I started out calling it 10 Days of Giving and doing it the first 10 days of November. Because, Thanksgiving's coming up, the holidays, we're all getting into the spirit of the giving and thankfulness and things like that. And so I knew it was like the perfect time right before that to just really focus on giving back. And so I've been running a promotion where when you buy a shirt, I give a shirt. And for the last 3 years, I have partnered with the Closet Inc. here in Boise, which that organization, it just became kind of the one I wanted to give back to going forward.
Right, because
I love what they do, and they bring hope, through clothing to teens who are going through hard situations. And for them to be able to grab one of my shirts and then, hear a little bit about where I was and where I am now, it gives them a little bit of hope too. And so I just feel like, every time, the shirts go in there, I just know they're going to do so much more.
That's amazing. Well, thank you for sharing a little bit about that. So you're running a business, an organization, it's a business, and a passion project. You're a mom, you're a wife, you're helping support your family. You're so involved in so many things. That can be really hard. I just want to chat for a minute on the personal side of things because burnout is a very real thing. And so I just want you to tell me a little bit about that in your life.
Yeah, I would say mom guilt hits before that, And I think if you're a mom, you can relate to that. That's just something that I struggle with all the time. But I've learned over the last few years that I can't do all things well.
Right.
And I used to tell this to people all the time. Like, you can't do all things well. You need to pick, and so now I've started applying that to my own life. So it has in a lot of ways helped me. Sometimes if I'm feeling stressed with social media, part of the business, I shut it down.
Yeah.
If it's too much with the office work or, just the business, I just shut the door for a couple of days. It's not going to go anywhere. I literally close the door to my office because it's in my home. Yeah. So you can't just leave work, right? You have to literally
physically close the door to the office and say, nope, I'm not walking in there.
Yeah, because, you don't want to, I can't pour from an empty cup. And so if I, with putting so much passion into this brand, I can't do that if I'm not, in a good place. Right. And so I struggle with balance still like every single day, but I'm starting to realize that balance just looks different every day. And some days I'm with my kids more than I am with my business, but sometimes I'm doing more of the business side than I'm with my family, and it's okay. And every day it can be a little bit different. It doesn't have to be the same all the time. Yeah. And then learning to say no.
Yes. Yeah.
That's really hard for me to do.
When we're so spread thin and there's so many things on our plate, using the word no is a really powerful 2-letter word to be able to draw boundaries and really make intentional decisions about what we commit our time to.
Yeah, and it's not just to other things. It's sometimes saying no to my own wishes that I want to do at that time. You know, no, this is not the right time for it right now. Let's wait on that and focus on something else. Because, you know, like, I think anybody who's running a small business or multitasking, being a mom and all of these things, like, sometimes we get burnt out and we just give up and we quit.
Yeah.
And this is not something that I want to quit, because it's not just the business. It's become who I am, and it's become a purpose-driven ministry in a way. And so I don't want to stop doing it. Yeah. I'm okay with it going a different direction, but it's not something I would want to just be done, burn out to the point where I'm like, I'm done.
Yeah.
I would never want to get there.
Yeah, that's good. So in the last year or so, shifting gears a little, God has put another calling on your life. He, through, I guess, some unexpected circumstances that hit probably closer to home for you than maybe some others, you have helped be a part of, spearhead, direct, whatever word you want to use, but been a huge part in something that's called the Idaho Humanitarian Aid for Ukraine. Will you tell me a little bit about that and just your personal attachment to this project?
Well, like you've already said, I'm from Ukraine. Mm-hmm. I moved to the United States when I was 9 years old. I've actually never been back, but my grandparents live there. I have many cousins still in Ukraine. So when we heard about the war, it was like all the emotions of losing my brother.
Yeah.
Because how do you go on? Mm-hmm. How do you pretend that everything's okay? Mm-hmm. I mean, I was just, and when I think back to that moment, like, yeah, you were just paused. Like, that's it. I can't do anything. I can't do my business. I'm never going to post anything on social media. It was just kind of one of those things, like, how do you go to the park or how do you go to the store when you know people walking down the streets are not safe in Ukraine? Like, how do I walk down the street? So it was just a very kind of a difficult few days, feeling helpless, of not knowing what I could do or where I go from here. And so, of course, like, I had to shut the door to my business because I can't pour from an empty cup. I wasn't going to do any good for anybody at that moment, you know? But a couple days into the attack on Ukraine, I was asked by a friend to join a meeting that was being held at a local church in Meridian, Idaho. It was many local Slavic churches that were wanting to come together and talk about doing some kind of a drive, collecting aid, getting it to Ukraine. Like, nobody knew how we were going to get it there, nothing like that. We just wanted
to do something.
Some people wanted to do something. And so there was going to be this meeting.
And it was personal to you, and it was personal because there actually is a large Slavic community in this area, this particular area of Idaho. And it was personal. So everybody wanted to do something.
And everybody wanted to do something. Yeah. And it was kind of crazy to see the different, churches unite in a sense. But I was asked to come and do some graphic design for a flyer.
Yes.
So I'm like, oh yeah, I definitely.
Using your business.
Great. Something I could do right now. You know, I was feeling like I can actually do something. Of course I'm going to go to this meeting. And so when I came there, what I didn't realize is that God was going to use me to help lead this effort. And I had no idea. Walking into that room, that boom, it was going to be like, okay, you, how about you guys organize this whole thing together?
Yeah. And now you're in charge.
And now I'm like, okay, yeah, I can do this, you know?
Yeah.
And so it was a lot of planning, making flyers. We wanted to do an in-person collection drive to collect aid from local community. And since we're from Ukraine, a lot of the organizers of the humanitarian aid have personal connections.
Right.
And they knew exactly what was needed. So we had lists of items. And so I think we met on Monday or maybe we met on Friday. And on Monday, we already had our doors open. One of the churches donated their huge gym facility, and within 3 days we had the doors open accepting donations from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. for 7 days or something. It was just, it was crazy.
It was a lot.
So it became life for a long time. That's just what we did. And we've actually had 4 drives already.
Yep.
Total. The last one was in November. And we've sent 7,500 boxes of aid to Ukraine.
Wow.
And that didn't just come from people. It came from businesses. It came from hospitals. I mean, we would get lists of medical supplies and we'd contact the local hospitals and they would donate what was needed, you know, things we couldn't get anywhere else. And so it just became such a blessing to be part of being able to do something.
It was incredible because I had the opportunity on one of the last drives, maybe it was the last drive, to be in the gym that everything was being collected in. And there was one whole corner of the gym that just had like pallets already formed and wrapped, and they just had the names of some of the local hospitals like just written across it. And I was just like, what are these? And it's like, I mean, I think there was an ultrasound machine or an x-ray machine or something on one of them. Like big things were donated and so many really needed things.
I mean, we had different organizations, I don't want to say a lot of names on here, but different organizations bring in crutches and wheelchairs. We had elderly ladies who knitted blankets, bring 100 blankets in, you know, and with little notes on them. Yeah. So anybody really that wanted to take part in something could. One of my jobs was during the drives is to greet people when they would walk in. Right. And kind of point them and explain to them what was happening, because we would always have 40 plus volunteers because during collecting the drive, we'd also have volunteers packaging everything at the same time. So when people would walk in, they would kind of be overtaken with emotion with what was happening in the room. And so I heard many times from people walking through the door, just thank you for letting us take part in this with you, you know, to feel your pain. And so it was really beautiful to see that somebody who wasn't from Ukraine could still help, you know.
It brought people together.
It did. It did. And it helped us, you know, feel useful, you know, being able to do something. And so, I mean, I'll kind of tell you a little bit, but in December, our 3 of our team members ended up going to Ukraine to just kind of see all the effort that's been done over there with our aid and also the financial support that went over there. And people are grateful. People are receiving all the things we're sending, and I think that makes us want to do it even more. Because we know it's going into the right hands. That's
what's amazing. That's what I really loved about this is I met face to face the person who has the connections to the boots on the ground, you know, in that gymnasium. He's local, and like, you know where this is going, and then you're able to go and, you know, I think one of the people that went was very close to you, as a family member of yours. Yeah. And she was there. She was boots on the ground, and she was actually able to see what was just in the gymnasium however many months ago was now being utilized there, and that it is helping. It is helping. It's not just, you know, kind of sending money somewhere that you don't know where it's going. I know that a lot of times, you know, even with missions organizations, which are all really well-intended and do really, really great work, I know I go to a church that is heavy missions based. And so we give a lot of money to missions, but not very many people have the opportunity to go and actually see where their money is going. And not always is there that report or that time to be able to see it even through video or whatever. But your whole team, even though you can't always share images and videos because of the content and whatnot, your team has seen and knows where it's going, and it's really impacting the people in Ukraine.
And a lot of the, you know, images, like you're saying, that we're receiving, like, we can't share it, you know.
Of course.
So, but we get to see it, and so we know it's working. One of my favorite projects, if I may share, that we're supporting right now, they're called mobile kitchens, and they're wood burning super old, like little trailers, where they cook the food on it and then they drive it into the front lines. In the beginning of the war, they would cook meals for the people that are stranded in the cities. Our volunteers would come into those cities and cook the meals there, but then they started being attacked. And so now they have to cook it elsewhere and then drive the food in, and people just come with their pots and pans and they'll put rice or soup or whatnot, and then they leave. They're there for like an hour. And so we support multiple mobile kitchens, and it's been an amazing thing just to see those images come through and know that you are making an impact. Even though you're so far away, you're still making an impact in Ukraine.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing about that.
Yeah, thank you.
So what I know about you is you have a heart for people. You have a heart for just spreading joy and beauty. And, I haven't known you for longer than 5 years, but I imagine that that's probably been a part of who you are. But I also know that your brother's passing was kind of the catalyst. And so in the last 5 years, since your brother has passed away, your life seems to have been so full of so many incredible things. And while there is nothing good or easy about his passing, your story has been a really beautiful example of God making beauty from ashes. And how if we allow God to take the reins and guide our steps, that he will redeem all of the messes. My last question for you is for the listener who is sitting here where you were maybe 5 years ago, that maybe they're in their mess, they're in their valley right now, and they cannot see how God's going to make this story beautiful. What encouragement would you have for them?
These last 5 years, they completely changed me. I am not the same person that I was before.
Yeah.
I used to have fear of judgment. I would never speak in a room with other people.
So doing this podcast would not have...
No, I wouldn't. I would never be here, ever. I had no idea how to do a lot of things, run a business for that matter, or a website, or to sell a product, or any of those things. But through the years, God has molded me, and he prepared me for the work that he had laid out in front of me. And when I look at the full picture, Hello Beautiful and Company was a way to share the light with the world, but also it molded me to help with the humanitarian aid for Ukraine.
Yeah.
And I believe that I'm still, being molded into what is to come. And so what I can say is that we're never promised to have an easy life, but we do have the promise that God will never leave us. So in your time of pain, just lean on him, because he will lead you. And he is the only one that knows our tomorrow. We just need to trust him. Joy is never based on our circumstances. True. It comes from the Lord.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Nataliya.
Thank you so much.
I just really appreciate you and your story and your heart.
Thank you for having me and just letting me share all that God has called me to do.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us for today's conversation on the Stories Unveiled podcast. We would love it if you would leave us a rating or a review. If you would like to learn more about Stories Unveiled and our events, go to storiesunveiledconference.com or follow us on Facebook or Instagram at storiesunveiled_. The Stories Unveiled podcast is created in partnership with KTSY and Barefoot Media Ministries. For more encouragement and other podcasts, visit ktsy.org. Have an incredible day and go live unveiled.